You keep getting blindsided because you'd rather hope for the best than prepare for the betrayal. That's the uncomfortable truth sitting at the center of your life, and you already know it. You feel it every time someone you trusted pulls the rug out from under you and you stand there, mouth open, asking yourself how you didn't see it coming. The answer is simple and it stings. You didn't see it coming because you refused to look. You chose comfort over clarity. You chose the warm fog of optimism over the cold edge of foresight. And every single time, you paid for it. Here is the idea I want you to hold onto for the next 30 minutes, the one idea that, if you let it, will rewire the way you move through the world. Hoping for the best is not optimism. It is surrender dressed in a pleasant costume. Expecting the worst is not pessimism. It is the highest form of strategic intelligence a human being can possess. The person who has already lived through every betrayal in their mind cannot be shaken when it arrives in reality. They have already buried the dead. They have already grieved. They have already rebuilt. The blow lands on empty air. This is what Machiavelli understood better than almost anyone who ever lived. The wise prince does not wait for the knife to appear. He feels the weight of it before the smith has finished forging the blade. He builds his walls during peacetime, not during the siege, because once the arrows are in the air, it is too late. And Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who carried the weight of an empire on his shoulders, began each morning by telling himself exactly what he would face that day. Interference. Ingratitude. Insolence. Disloyalty. Ill will. Selfishness. He did not say these things to poison his morning. He said them to inoculate himself. He was preloading the shock so that when it walked through the door, he would already be standing. Most people do the opposite. They wake up and whisper to themselves that today will be a good day. Today people will be fair. Today things will go smoothly. And then the day happens, and they are wounded, not because the day was unusually cruel, but because they expected the day to be kind. The world was never going to be kind. The world is neutral. People are self-interested. And the gap between what you expected and what actually happened is where all your suffering lives. So let me give you something different. Let me hand you 7 principles of strategic anticipation, 7 dark tricks of mental preparation that will make you dangerously hard to manipulate, hard to surprise, and hard to break. By the end of this, you will understand something that most people never figure out in their entire lives. The person who expects the worst is never disappointed. They are never caught off guard. And they are never, ever powerless. Number 1. Stop confusing hope with strategy. Hope is not a plan. Hope is what you reach for when you have no plan. And the dangerous thing about hope is that it feels productive. It feels like you are doing something. You are sitting there, hoping your business partner stays loyal, hoping your friend has your back, hoping the person you are dating does not suddenly reveal a completely different character. And while you are hoping, they are strategizing. While you are praying for fairness, they are calculating their advantage. Hope is the luxury of people who have never been seriously betrayed. Strategy is the necessity of people who have. Think about the last time you were genuinely blindsided. Not mildly disappointed. I mean blindsided. The kind of event that knocked the wind out of you and made you question your judgment for weeks afterward. Go back to that moment and ask yourself one question. Was the information actually hidden, or did you refuse to read it? Because here is what I have noticed, again and again. The signs were there. They were always there. The slight delay in returning your call. The half-truth that you let slide because confronting it would have been uncomfortable. The pattern of small self-serving choices that you explained away because the alternative, seeing the person clearly, would have required you to act. You were not blindsided. You were willfully blind. And the cost of that blindness was not just the betrayal itself. It was the weeks of recovery. The shattered trust. The creeping suspicion that you cannot trust your own judgment. That is what hoping for the best takes from you. It takes your clarity. It takes your time. And eventually, if you let it run long enough, it takes your self-respect. Strategic people operate differently. They do not hope. They assess. They look at every relationship, every deal, every alliance, and they ask one cold question. What is the worst this person could do to me, and what is my response if they do it? Not because they expect everyone to betray them. Not because they are paranoid. But because a mind that has already asked and answered that question moves through the world with a completely different energy. It moves with calm. It moves with preparedness. And other people feel that. They feel that you are not desperate. They feel that you are not clinging. They feel that you have already considered their exit, and you are still standing. That changes everything about how they treat you. Number 2. Rehearse the betrayal before it happens. This is the ancient practice that the Stoics called the premeditation of evils. And it is one of the most misunderstood ideas in all of philosophy, because people hear the phrase and they think it means sitting around wallowing in negativity. It does not. It means the exact opposite. It means sitting down, in a quiet room, and walking yourself through the worst-case scenarios in vivid, specific detail, so that your nervous system processes them before they become real. Seneca said it beautifully. He said that a man who has rehearsed misfortune in advance finds it has no power over him when it arrives. He has already been there. He has already felt it. The emotional charge is spent in the rehearsal, not in the reality. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine you have a business partner. Things are going well. Revenue is up. The relationship feels solid. Most people, at this point, stop thinking about risk. They coast. They relax. They assume the trajectory will continue. That is precisely when the ground opens beneath them. The strategic person, at the height of success, sits down and asks the uncomfortable questions. What if my partner gets an offer from a competitor and decides to walk? What if they have been quietly moving assets? What if they decide to cut me out? And then, critically, they do not stop at the question. They build the answer. If my partner leaves, here is what I do. Here is who I call. Here is the legal position I hold. Here is the contingency fund I have built. Here is the version of the business that survives without them. Do you see what just happened? By rehearsing the betrayal, the strategic person has done two things. First, they have stripped the scenario of its emotional shock value. If it happens, they will not freeze. They will not spiral. They will execute the plan they already built. Second, and this is the subtle part, they have changed their behavior in the present. A person who has mentally prepared for their partner to leave acts differently in the relationship. They protect their interests. They maintain their own network. They do not become lazy or dependent. And paradoxically, that very independence makes the partner less likely to leave, because people respect strength, not neediness. The rehearsal protects you in reality, not just in imagination. This is what most people do not understand about negative visualization. It is not about living in fear. It is about living so free of fear that you become untouchable. The fear of betrayal is far more destructive than the betrayal itself, because the fear makes you controllable. It makes you clingy. It makes you compromise your boundaries. But the person who has already walked through the betrayal in their mind, who has already felt the worst and survived it in imagination, walks through the real world with a settled nervous system. They are calm because they have nothing left to fear. They have already been to the bottom and they know they can climb out. Number 3. See the disease before the symptom. Machiavelli made an observation that is so precise it should be tattooed on the inside of your eyelids. He said that political troubles, if recognized early, are easy to cure. If neglected, they grow until they become incurable. He compared it to a doctor who can see a disease in its earliest stages and intervene before it spreads. The same is true for every relationship, every project, every deal in your life. The betrayal never begins with the betrayal. It begins with a small, almost invisible shift. A tone that changes. A confidence that slips. A commitment that gets quietly downgraded. Most people dismiss these signals because they are small. They think they are being paranoid. They think they are overreacting. So they wait. They give it time. They hope it resolves itself. And by the time the problem is undeniable, it is also unfixable. The strategic person does not wait. They read the early signal and they act. Not aggressively. Not dramatically. But decisively. They have a quiet conversation. They adjust their exposure. They quietly shore up their position. They do not need to burn the bridge, but they make sure they have another way across the river. This is the art of acting before the threat materializes rather than reacting after the damage is done. And it requires something that most people lack. It requires the willingness to see clearly even when seeing clearly is uncomfortable. Most people avoid the early signal because acting on it would mean having a difficult conversation or making a difficult change. So they convince themselves it is nothing. They tell themselves they are being paranoid. They choose the comfortable interpretation over the accurate one. And 3 months later, 6 months later, a year later, they are sitting in the wreckage, saying they never saw it coming. You saw it coming. You always see it coming. The question is whether you have the discipline to trust what you see, or whether you will override your own perception because the truth is inconvenient. Here is what that pattern is costing you. Every time you dismiss an early signal and it turns out to be right, you train yourself to distrust your own instincts. You chip away at your own intelligence. And over time, you become someone who cannot read situations accurately even when they want to, because you have spent years teaching yourself to look away. That is the real cost. It is not just the betrayal. It is the erosion of your own capacity to see clearly. Number 4. Build your walls in peacetime. This is the principle that separates the strategic person from the reactive person, and it comes directly from Machiavelli. The wise prince builds his defenses, his alliances, and his contingency plans during periods of calm. Not because he expects war tomorrow. But because once war arrives, there is no time to build. There are no resources to draw on. There is no clarity to plan with. You build the wall when the sky is blue, so that when the storm comes, you are already inside, dry, and watching the rain hit stone instead of flesh. What does this look like in practice? It looks like maintaining your financial independence even when you are in a comfortable relationship, so that you never stay because you cannot afford to leave. It looks like building your own network and reputation even when you are part of a strong team, so that if the team dissolves, you are not starting from zero. It looks like keeping your skills sharp even when your current job does not demand them, so that if the job disappears, you are not scrambling. It looks like having the difficult conversation about boundaries early, when everything is fine, rather than waiting until the boundary has been crossed and you are angry, hurt, and in a weak negotiating position. Peacetime preparation is boring. That is why most people skip it. It feels unnecessary. It feels paranoid. It feels like you are wasting energy on something that might never happen. And then it happens. And the people who skipped the preparation are standing in the rubble, while the people who built quietly are watching from behind their walls, calm and ready. The cost of peacetime laziness is wartime catastrophe. And the cost is always paid by you, never by anyone else. No one is coming to rebuild your walls after the storm. No one is coming to restock your reserves. No one is going to hand you a contingency plan in the middle of a crisis. You either built it before or you suffer without it. Number 5. Treat obstacles as the default, not the exception. Most people approach life as if smooth sailing is the natural state and obstacles are interruptions. They believe, deep down, that things should go well, and when they do not, they feel wronged. They feel singled out. They feel as if the universe has made a mistake. This belief, this expectation that things should go smoothly, is one of the most dangerous mental models you can carry, because it guarantees that you will spend your life in a state of low-grade shock and resentment. Marcus Aurelius started each day by listing every difficult thing he would encounter. Not because he was negative. Because he was accurate. He understood that interference, ingratitude, disloyalty, and selfishness are not bugs in the system. They are the system. They are the normal, expected, baseline conditions of human interaction. When you internalize this, something remarkable happens. You stop being surprised. And when you stop being surprised, you stop being reactive. You stop wasting emotional energy on outrage. You stop spending hours processing the injustice of it all. You simply see the obstacle, execute your response, and move on. Think about how much energy you currently spend being shocked by things that were always going to happen. Someone lied to you. Someone took credit for your work. Someone you helped turned their back when you needed help in return. You act as if these are aberrations, cosmic anomalies, evidence that the world is broken. But the world is not broken. It is working exactly as it always has. People are self-interested. Circumstances change. Loyalties shift. The person who expects this operates with a kind of serene pragmatism that looks, from the outside, like invulnerability. Nothing knocks them off center because nothing is unexpected. They have already factored human inconsistency into every equation. Here is the shift I want you to make. Stop treating betrayal as an interruption of your life. Start treating it as a feature of the landscape. You do not get angry at the rain for being wet. You bring an umbrella. You do not get angry at people for being self-interested. You build structures that account for it. The moment you stop expecting the world to be fair is the moment you become free to operate effectively within it. Fairness is not coming. Preparedness is all you have. And preparedness, unlike fairness, is something you can control. Number 6. Detach from the outcome you want and prepare for the outcome you fear. This is where most people's psychology breaks down. They want something so badly that they cannot entertain the possibility of not getting it. They go all in. They commit everything. They burn their bridges and their backup plans because they have convinced themselves that wanting it badly enough is the same as guaranteeing it. And when it does not work out, they are not just disappointed. They are destroyed. Because they built their entire identity and emotional infrastructure on one outcome. The strategic person does the opposite. They pursue the outcome they want with full effort, but they have already made peace with the outcome they fear. They have sat with it. They have felt it. They have asked themselves, what if none of this works? What if I give everything and it still falls apart? And then they have answered that question. If it falls apart, here is who I am afterwards. Here is what I do next. Here is the ground I stand on that is not dependent on this one thing going my way. This is not hedging. This is not half-committing. This is the discipline of will. It is the inner strength to pursue something with everything you have while simultaneously holding the awareness that it might not work, and being okay with that. This sounds contradictory, but it is the most powerful psychological position a person can occupy. You are fully engaged and fully detached at the same time. You are giving everything and expecting nothing. You are in the arena, swinging with everything you have, and you have already accepted that you might lose. And because you have accepted it, you fight better. You fight with freedom. You fight without the tightening of desperation. Desperation makes you stupid. It makes you overextend. It makes you reveal your hand. But the person who has already accepted the worst possible outcome fights with a looseness, a creativity, and a calm that is almost impossible to beat. The cost of not doing this is enormous. Every time you attach your entire emotional survival to one outcome, you hand control of your well-being to forces you cannot influence. You become reactive. You become anxious. You become easy to manipulate, because anyone who can threaten that outcome can control you. The person who needs the deal to go through is the person who gets the worst terms. The person who needs the relationship to survive is the person who gets the worst treatment. Need is leverage, and leverage is always used against the person who has it. By preparing for the outcome you fear, you eliminate your own need. And by eliminating your need, you eliminate everyone else's leverage over you. Number 7. Live as if you have already lost everything, and then watch how free you become. This is the ultimate principle, the one that all the others point toward. The Stoics had a practice that sounds terrifying to modern ears. They would periodically imagine losing everything. Their wealth. Their reputation. Their loved ones. Their status. Their health. Not to torture themselves, but to strip away the illusion that any of these things are permanent, and to discover, in the imagination of loss, what remains. What remains is you. Your judgment. Your character. Your will. Your capacity to think, to choose, to endure. Everything else can be taken. Those things cannot. When you have lived through total loss in your mind, something shifts. You stop being afraid. And when you stop being afraid, you become dangerous. Not dangerous in the sense of being harmful. Dangerous in the sense of being uncontrollable. A person who is not afraid cannot be threatened. A person who has already imagined the worst cannot be coerced with the threat of the worst. They have already been there. They have already walked through the fire in their mind and come out the other side. You cannot push them, because there is nowhere to push them to. They are already standing on the ground you are threatening to push them toward. This is the psychological armor I want you to build. Not the armor of denial. Not the armor of pretending everything is fine. The armor of having already faced every terrible thing in your imagination and discovering that you survive. That you endure. That the core of who you are is not dependent on any external circumstance. Marcus Aurelius said that no one can involve him in what is degrading. That is not arrogance. That is the statement of a man who has looked at every possible form of attack and realized that none of them can reach the part of him that matters. Now let me bring all of this together, because there is a thread running through all 7 principles, and if you grab it, it will change the way you move through the world forever. The thread is this. Most people live in a state of permanent vulnerability because they refuse to look at what could go wrong. They build their lives on hope, which is the weakest building material that exists. They wait for problems to become undeniable before they address them, which means they are always fighting fires instead of preventing them. They attach their peace of mind to outcomes they cannot control, which means their peace of mind is constantly being held hostage by external forces. And when the inevitable happens, when the betrayal arrives, when the deal falls through, when the person they trusted reveals their true character, they are devastated. Not because the event was unusual, but because they refuse to prepare for it. You do not have to live that way. You can be the person who sees the disease before the symptom. Who builds the wall in peacetime. Who rehearses the betrayal so thoroughly that when it arrives, it has no sting. Who treats obstacles as the normal terrain and moves through them without outrage or surprise. Who pursues what they want with full force while holding the awareness that it might not work, and who is okay with that. Who has lived through the worst in their mind and come out the other side calm, clear, and unbreakable. This is not pessimism. This is the opposite of pessimism. Pessimism is expecting the worst and being paralyzed by it. What I am describing is expecting the worst and being freed by it. The pessimist sees the storm and gives up. The strategic person sees the storm, has already built the shelter, stocked the supplies, and is sitting inside, dry and ready, watching the rain through the window with a look of quiet recognition. They knew it was coming. They prepared. And now they are safe while everyone else is drowning in a flood they called an anomaly. Hoping for the best is surrender. Expecting the worst is power. Say it to yourself. Hoping for the best is surrender. Expecting the worst is power. The person who hopes is always one event away from devastation. The person who prepares is always one decision away from invulnerability. You have been choosing hope your whole life, and it has been taking pieces of you every time. Your trust. Your time. Your confidence. Your peace. It is time to take those things back, not by pretending the world is kinder than it is, but by becoming so well prepared that the world's cruelty cannot reach you. Machiavelli understood this. Marcus Aurelius lived it. Seneca practiced it every single day. They did not build their legacies on hope. They built them on anticipation. On the ruthless, clear-eyed willingness to look at the worst and say, I have already been there, and I am still standing. That is the ruthless art Machiavelli perfected. Now it is yours. So here is what I want you to do. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when you feel ready, because you will never feel ready. Right now. Tonight. Sit down in a quiet room and do the thing you have been avoiding. Walk yourself through the worst-case scenario in the part of your life that feels most fragile. The relationship. The business. The friendship. The career. Ask the question you have been afraid to ask. What is the worst that could happen? And then do not flinch. Stay with it. Feel it. Live through it in your mind. And then build the response. What do you do if it happens? Who do you call? Where do you stand? What is your move? When you have done that, you will feel something shift inside you. A loosening. A calm. The fear will drain out of the scenario because you have already processed it. You have already survived it in imagination. And now, when you walk back into the real world, you will carry that calm with you. People will feel it. They will sense that something has changed. They will sense that you are no longer clinging, no longer desperate, no longer easy to manipulate. And they will treat you differently, because people always adjust their behavior based on the power they sense in the other person. You have been giving away your power your whole life by refusing to look at what could go wrong. You have been handing the element of surprise to everyone who would use it against you. You have been choosing the comfort of hope over the clarity of preparation, and you have been paying for it every single time. That ends now. If you understood what I just told you, if you felt the truth of it in your bones, then you already know what to do. You do not need more information. You need more courage. The courage to look at the worst and not look away. The courage to prepare for the betrayal while trusting no one. The courage to build your walls in the sunshine while everyone else is lounging in the open field, pretending it will never rain. Go to the comments right now and type these 4 words. I am untouchable. Not because you are arrogant. Because you have decided, in this moment, to stop being a victim of your own optimism. You have decided to expect the worst, prepare for it, and walk through the world with the calm of someone who has already survived everything that could possibly be thrown at them. Type it. Mean it. And then go build the wall before the storm comes. Because it is coming. It always comes. And this time, for the first time in your life, you will be ready.